Hey everyone, and welcome to my very first Behind the Design. My goal with this series is to show you a little bit about my UX process, whether it be for a project just for fun like this one, or a project that I'm spending months and months on for my residency. So today I'm going to be showing you how I came up with the idea, wrote my problem statement, made some user flows, and then finally developed some high fidelity designs that are prototyped and animated. I thought about redesigning an app that is super prevalent now throughout COVID. So I asked you guys on Instagram if you'd rather see me redesign Instacart or Zoom. And Zoom by far got the most votes. So that's what I started out doing. But as I was thinking about my idea and the project, I decided I wanted to do something a little bit more fun. A few weeks ago, I was talking to a friend of mine who actually is dating virtually on FaceTime and has been doing that for a few months. And I thought that was really interesting and something I hadn't thought about before. The prospect of dating apps right now is really interesting because you're not really going to meet up on these dating apps. So I just thought I could come up with an idea to transform Zoom into a dating app that could solve a few different problems. So I didn't want to go crazy with this app. I wanted to focus on a specific user and what they would want to get out of it, even separate from COVID. So what I'm focusing on for this is someone who wants to meet other singles virtually, like on a dating app, but without participating in swipe culture. A lot of people I've talked to who are on dating apps have gotten to a point where they're either addicted to swiping or they're just not getting really good quality dates from swiping. So I thought that using video conferencing technology could be a super cool idea to solve this problem. So I started by sketching out some user flows that could use video conferencing as a way for singles to meet each other. I had a few different ideas. My first idea was the idea of group video dates. So, a big group of people on Zoom, probably like a lot of you are doing right now with your friends and family, but it's all new people that you're meeting, and it could be based around shared interests. So you could just have group conversations about things like travel or tech or, whatever you might be interested in. And then I started exploring that idea a little bit, and I thought about actually speed dating and the idea of speed dating virtually. And so that was really interesting to me, and I decided to pursue that idea for this project. So once I decided that that was the solution I wanted to go with, I decided to take my user flows onto the computer in XD and make them a little bit more refined. Sometimes during a project, this is where I would wireframe and actually create grayscale screens to show what would go on each screen. But for this, I wanted to keep it kind of simple and get straight to designing. So instead of wireframes, I actually created these cards that I turned into a little bit more of a fleshed out flow. So as you can see, each of these cards has a title of the screen as well as what should be included on that screen. So it's really just bullet points to remind myself what I need to include when I get to designing that screen. Then once I built out the whole flow of the app, I wanted to hone my focus a little bit. Instead of designing out every single screen that this app needs, I wanted to just focus on the most important ones. And it's totally okay to do that for your portfolio and your case studies, as long as you have a reason for which screens you included and which ones you didn't. And you should be able to answer questions about what would happen if someone clicked a certain button that's not necessarily in your prototype. You want to think about the whole flow, but then you can focus on high fidelity designs for just a focused group of the flow. So for me, I wanted to focus on the process of browsing through different Zoom events based on shared interests. So you should be able to browse through these categories and different events and actually join them and then see which events you've joined in your home screen. And of course, the other flow I wanted to include was the actual date itself. So what are the interactions that are involved in the series of speed dates? How do you go from one date to another? How do you match with someone after a date? And what can you do with a person once you've matched? So now that you have a little bit of background, I'm going to walk you through my final designs and then get into the nitty-gritty for some of these interactions to show you how I created them. Okay, so I'm just going to walk you through all of these screens that I designed for this app, and then I'll go through and show you quickly how I created some of the interactions that are a little bit more unique and complicated, just in case you're interested in learning some XD tips along the way. So first, let's play the prototype. Okay, awesome. So this is the first screen that a user would land on. This is their home screen. And what we're seeing is first they're going to be shown events that are happening soon and give them the opportunity to go right into the event. And then they're also going to see events happening this week. And if a user had even more events, you would be able to scroll and see those. Next, we're hopping over to the Zooms for You screen. And this is where you can scroll through tons of different events that are happening. So these ones are happening this weekend based on your interests. These are all of the events happening based around travel interest and food and art. So these categories just come from your preferences. So if you're a user and you've typed in that you are interested in travel, food, tech, design, that kind of thing, that's why these things will come up. And so what you can actually do is if a event is interesting for you, you can look in and see some more details about it, and that will show you, when it's happening, the description, as well as some events you might be interested in that are related. And then of course you can join the Zoom. So for this, I've created a button with 2 different states. So this is the success state. So it says you're going, view your Zooms. So we can go, and this takes us back to home, and now you can see this For Wine Lovers event is now on your home screen because you're attending it. And so now let's say that a user wants to hop into an event that's happening right now. So you can click enter Zoom, and there's this handsome guy just waiting for you on the video chat. So this is just to show, of course it doesn't look very realistic, but this image is just to show you that you would probably see, like waiting for Jeremy. And then when Jeremy also joined the speed date, you would see him and you guys would chat, and you would only have 10 minutes to chat because it is a speed date. So that's the timer that would hypothetically be counting down. And then there's this little guy. So you can actually pop him out, and then you can, maybe the conversation's getting kind of stale and you need to maybe just prompt each other with a fun question to answer. So the app just provides randomized questions that you can ask here. And here you see your kind of progress bar. So since it's a speed date, you might even have like 8 or 10 people that you're speaking with. And so this is just showing you that you're on the second to last speed date. So that is kind of cool. And then you can collapse that again. And then let's say that particular date, those 10 minutes are up, then this is going to pop up. And if I were really designing this app, I might make this screen a little bit more interesting. To me, it's a little bit boring, but just for the sake of time, I wanted to get the idea out there. So now you can say, okay, did you feel a potential connection with Jeremy? And so maybe I say yes. And then it shows you it's a match. And so now, once you've matched with each other, you can actually set up dates to Zoom one-on-one and message each other. But in this case, there are actually more dates happening within your speed date event. So you don't really do anything with Jeremy yet, but you click on next date, and now you're having the exact same type of thing with the next person. So this is Joseph. You can collapse and open up this modal, and then you can do the same exact thing. So, okay, maybe I wasn't super into Joseph. No worries, not every day can be a match made in heaven. So now you're finished. And so what I wanted for this last screen at the end of your date was kind of just a summary page. So your matches from this Zoom. So we've got the cover photo, and then we have each person that you did match with. So no need to point out the people you didn't match with, but maybe you did match with these 3 guys. And so you can go through and go straight to message them, or you can go back and view all of your matches. So this now is my matches tab. So I can see everyone that I have matched with and then go into the messages with each person. So let's say that an incoming message comes from Elijah. So I'm going to go into that, and now I can see the messages that I have with him. So he just sent me this first message, and this is kind of where I'm wrapping up. The prototype is on this screen. But the last thing that I definitely wanted to point out was that I've created this button, this ask out button. So like we talked about earlier, once you're matched with someone, you can actually ask them out on a second video date. So you can create an invite here, and so that's what that's for. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is how I created the screen of Zooms where you can scroll through all of these events in different categories. So it's super easy with the new feature in Adobe XD. So I'm going to show you how I did it. First, what you want to do is you want to group everything that you want to scroll vertically on the page. So that's kind of like normally how you would see something scroll, and normally you would have to just lock this at the bottom and everything else would scroll if you extended the length of your artboard and then capped it off at wherever the end of the artboard might be. But this makes it a lot easier. So what I did was I grouped together everything that I want to scroll vertically, and then I'm just clicking on this vertical scroll button. And so then what I want to do is make sure that I've got everything I want in the frame and nothing more. So we're going to kind of just bring it over here just to see. So I think that's kind of where I want it to start. And so therefore it shouldn't go past here, the scrolling. So that's kind of how I'm doing it for that. But then what's even cooler is that you can do the same thing for vertical scrolling or for horizontal scrolling. So what you do is you select the group of all of these events in a horizontal line, and you do the same thing except this horizontal scroll button. So do that, and then same thing, you have to set the constraints for where you want it to scroll. So I'll do that in a second once I move it over to this artboard, but I want you to kind of be able to see what's happening here. So that's where we want to start, right here and right here. So then I'm gonna move all of this over, give it 20 pixels, and then what I can do is I can actually click on these and make sure that we're starting at the beginning of the artboard and ending this constraint at the end. And we're just going to do that for all of these. Awesome. And now, okay, let's see how this looks. So we're going to play it. Awesome. It scrolls perfectly that way. There we go. And that's exactly how we want it to look. So you should definitely check out scroll groups if you haven't updated yet in Adobe XD. I feel like there's so much you can do with this. So definitely tag me on Instagram or I don't know, send me your stuff on Dribbble if you do anything cool with this, because I feel like it could make for a lot of really awesome prototypes. The next thing I want to show you is how I created this sort of pop out. And so what I did was I created it in two different states. So we'll kind of remake it off to the side. Let's see. So we just need a rectangle here. We need his name. Give that 20 pixels. We need this timer, which will also give 20 pixels. Perfect. Then I'll grab this guy. So right now I'm just grabbing things. I'm not actually animating anything yet. So then we need our ghost button. So that means we need to make this a good bit higher. Cool. And I always start with the state that has more going on or more content, and then kind of remove from there with the second state. So that's what we're doing here. Awesome. So as you can see, these are all the elements we need to create this. So now what I'm going to do is select everything, make sure to deselect our photo, and then we can create a component by doing Command K. And then once it's a component, we can add different states. So we'll do the plus button over here to do a new state. And then in this state, we want to change things so that it's the closed state. So we'll name that closed. So in the closed state, we really don't need this button and we don't need this progress bar. So what I'm going to do is just drag it off to the side and decrease the opacity. And then we also don't need all of this space, of course. So what I'm going to do is bring this down, and we're just going to make this into a little button. So we're going to drag this guy over and turn him. So he's really just the open button at this point. And then since we have all of this empty space, we can kind of move the name down so that it's just above our timer. So here is the closed state. And now once we've got those two states designed, we can see, make sure everything looks good in each one. Now we can hop into prototype mode, and we want to select this close button, tap to bring up our animation or our interaction panel, and then we want auto animate to be on, and we're going to choose the closed state. And then let's try snap for this. Cool. And then we have to do the reverse. So we're going to select this guy, and we want on tap for that to auto animate back to the default state. Cool. So let's check out what this looks like. Make sure this looks how we want it. Awesome. So that's exactly what we wanted. And if you haven't used auto animate before, it's really cool. So what it basically does is it looks at the components, or I guess the objects that you have in each state, and it will look at the difference between them and then animate in between so that it looks really smooth. So that's just a way to make animations look so smooth. And I love putting snap on because then it looks even cooler. Okay, awesome. So now, lastly, what I want to do is talk about how I did these matches screens. So I'll show you what I'm talking about here. What we want is for a new message to pop up here, and it's really easy to do that now with stacks. So I'm going to kind of recreate it. So what I did was I've got all of these components and I grouped them together and then just checked off stack. And so that actually makes it so that you can move things around, and it's a content aware tool. So when you're moving things around, it knows the space that you want to keep between them, and so it keeps it nice and even. So I'm going to use that function in order to create that interaction of someone, of a new message popping up. So what I've got is this first artboard that we're starting out on, and then I want the next artboard to be the new message. So we've got this person is going to message, and so we can turn on the notification state that I created. So the same way that I created two different states in the previous example, I just changed some things around. So I put the actual message that he sent, and I added this notification dot here. And so that is really all we have to do. And then we hop into prototype mode again. And what I've done is we are going to make it so that once I press the N key, this interaction is going to happen. So we want auto animate, and maybe we don't want snap, maybe we want ease in and out. And so that is going to auto animate between these two artboards. So let's check it out. Up to the side. So I'm pressing N, and this is just, I'm using N because this is really something that would happen behind the scenes without this user needing to take an action. It's just something that's happening. This person is messaging you. And so as the person controlling the prototype, I just wanted to have a way to kind of cue that new message. So pressing N, and perfect, it slides right up and we have this new message. If you have any questions about UX design or Adobe XD, whether it be research, prototyping, planning your project, creating case studies, building your portfolio, anything like that, please leave them down below in the comments, and I'd love to read through them and try to cover them in a future video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!